Hello, and welcome to worship. My name is Leslie Poulin. I am the pastor of an ecumenical shared ministry, which includes Lutheran Church of the Cross, Morris United Church, and St. John Lutheran Church in Rosenfeld, all in Manitoba. This is the order of service for Sunday, January the 2nd, 2022, the second Sunday of Christmas. Quote of the week: we as churches may be lampstands, but all of the light is Christ himself. We exist in order that he might shine through us. Alistair Begg. Before we worship, we reflect. The longest night of the year has passed, but while the light is increasing, it remains so incremental. It appears as though the darkness outside is triumphing. By the third day of January, the hangovers have arrived. Not just the self-inflicted suffering of many on New Year's Eve, but also the financial hangovers of the irrational exuberance of Christmas. Only a few more days, and the darkness of January bills will be casting a pall over many homes. Add to all this the darkness of illness and injury, sorrow and loss. And even in this season, there is plenty of pain and anxiety to go around. Still, the promise of hope comes to us this day, not in the form of the infant as on Christmas Eve, but in the form of light. We celebrate the pure, radiant light that cuts through the darkness of this world and shines into shadow-filled lives. It is the light that shines through the love broken and poured in bread and wine. It is the light of the holy presence of Christ in times of confusion and despair. It is the light of grace and truth shining into lives, young and old, rich and poor, broken and whole. It is the light of Christ that sends people like John the Baptist into this world, people who dedicate their lives to pointing others toward Jesus. Some days we are privileged to play this role for others, reminding them of Jesus. Other days, we need John the Baptist to tell us the story one more time. We need people like John to point our eyes toward the light, undiminished by time, so that we can see clearly the promise of Jesus in our lives, our communities, and our world. The children's song is number 69 in Voices United, Away in a Manger. Centering prayer. O God, our Redeemer, you created light that we might live, and you illumine our world with your beloved Son. By your Spirit, comfort us in all darkness, and turn us toward the light of Jesus Christ, our Savior, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. A new creed. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus, crucified and risen, our judge and our hope, in life, in death, in life beyond death. God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. And now I would like the attention of the children and the children at heart. I love camping. My favorite trip out of all our family camping trips was the East Coast trip we took in 1977. I was 14. I felt really close to God on that trip. The scenery was beautiful, and I felt the presence of God very strongly. The people were friendly, kind, and helpful. I felt the presence of God very strongly. My sisters got along for most of the trip. I was saying prayers of thanks at night and prayers of hope in the morning. My parents were relaxed and enjoying themselves. Again, my prayers of thanks to God that they were able to unwind. I want to be clear that I felt the presence of God very strongly outside of our camping trips. It's just that the beauty of the land, the friendliness of the people, the call of the ocean, all combined to help me really focus on God. I was on holiday. There were no other distractions. What is that telling me? What does that tell all of us? It doesn't matter how young or how old you are. We all need to make time for God, to listen for God's voice, to look for the light of Christ in other people, to sit quietly and feel God's arms around us saying, I love you. Perhaps that is why I like camping so much. I was seeing new places, meeting new people, experiencing new things. It was fresh and exciting to see God in all of that. When we get busy with our lives and our routines, it can be easy to forget to take time for God or look for God's presence in others. Thankfully, we can take many moments throughout our day to notice God in action through others and say thank you. We can take many moments and pray for someone. We can take many moments and show a friend that we care. We don't need a camping trip to have God be exciting in our lives. God is exciting no matter what. Keep your eyes and ears open, and you will be surprised every day at the light God shines in your world. Minute for Mission. The wisdom of thoughtful, intentional giving. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. These are the gifts the Magi presented to baby Jesus in Matthew's Christmas story. Each of these gifts was highly symbolic. In Jesus' day, gold was typically a gift given to kings or people of high social class. Frankincense was burned during sacrifice offerings and worship services. Myrrh was used to embalm the bodies of those who had died. The Magi recognized who Jesus was: important, worthy of worship, and someone who would pay the ultimate sacrifice. Their gifts were given to honor him. Their gifts were thoughtful and intentional. While we may round up our tab at the cash register to give to a charity, our Christian faith also calls us to think deeply about giving. God calls us to discipleship, which means carving out time to reflect spiritually on what we are able to give. When we reflect on generosity as part of our spiritual practice, our giving becomes even more deeply intentional and meaningful. And while it may be true that the people we support through mission and service need our generosity, we give as a way of honoring them by working in partnership with trusted mission and service partners. We pay homage to, learn, and benefit from the resourcefulness, resilience, and giftedness of those receiving our financial support. As the old adage goes, giving is a two-way street. How will you commit yourself to give generously, thoughtfully, and intentionally in the new year? After the wise men encountered Jesus and laid their gifts before him, they weren't the same. The story goes they went home by another road. In other words, their life took a new path. May we too be changed by our connection with the Spirit of Jesus. And in 2022, may generosity set us on an even deeper, more meaningful path. As always, thank you for your mission and service support. Prayer for illumination. Guide us, O God, by your word and Holy Spirit, that in your light we may see light, in your truth find freedom, and in your will discover peace. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Readings and Psalm. Our first reading is from Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 7 through 14. God promises to bring Israel back to its land from the most remote parts of exile. In Zion, Israel will rejoice over God's gift of food and livestock. Young women will express their joy in dancing. God will give gladness instead of sorrow. Thus says the Lord. Sing aloud with gladness for Jacob and raise shouts for the chief of the nations. Proclaim, give praise, and say, save, O Lord, your people, the remnant of Israel. See, I am going to bring them from the land of the north and gather them from the farthest parts of the earth, among them the blind and the lame, those with child and those in labor. Together, a great company, they shall return here. With weeping they shall come, and with consolations I will call them back. I will lead them back. I will let them walk by brooks of water, in a straight path in which they shall not stumble. For I have become a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord, O nations, and declare it to the coastlands far away. Say, he who scattered Israel will gather him, and will keep him as a shepherd a flock. For the Lord has ransomed Jacob, and has redeemed him from the hands too strong for him. They shall come and sing aloud on the height of Zion, and they shall be radiant over the goodness of the Lord, over the grain and the wine and the oil, and over the young of the flock and the herd. Their life shall become like a watered garden, and they shall never languish again. Then shall the young women rejoice in the dance, and the young men and the old shall be merry. I will turn their mourning into joy. I will comfort them. I will give them gladness for sorrow. I will give you priests to fill their fill of fatness, and my people shall be satisfied with my bounty, says the Lord. Psalm 147, verses 12 through 20. The refrain, Worship the Lord, O Jerusalem. Praise your God, O Zion. Worship the Lord, O Jerusalem. Praise your God, O Zion, who has strengthened the bars of your gates and has blessed your children within you. God has established peace on your borders and satisfies you with the finest wheat. God sends out a command to the earth, a word that runs very swiftly. Worship the Lord, O Jerusalem. Praise your God, O Zion. God gives snow like wool, scattering frost like ashes. God scatters hail like breadcrumbs. Who can stand against God's cold? The Lord sends forth the word and melts them. The wind blows and the waters flow. God declares the word to Jacob, statutes and judgments to Israel. The Lord has not done so to any other nation. They do not know God's judgments. Hallelujah. Worship the Lord, O Jerusalem. Praise your God, O Zion. The second reading is from Ephesians chapter 1, verses 3 through 14. In Jesus, all of God's plans and purposes have been made known as heaven and earth are united in Christ. Through Jesus, we have been chosen as God's children and have been promised eternal salvation. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us in Christ with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places, just as he chose us in Christ before the foundation of the world, to be holy and blameless before him in love. He destined us for adoption as his children through Jesus Christ, according to the good pleasure of his will, to the praise of his glorious grace that he freely bestowed on us in the beloved. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of his grace that he lavished on us. With all wisdom and insight, he has made known to us the mystery of his will, according to his good pleasure, that he set forth in Christ, as a plan for the fullness of time, to gather up all things to him, things in heaven and things on earth. In Christ we have also obtained an inheritance, having been destined according to the purpose of him who accomplishes all things according to his counsel and will, so that we, who were the first to set our hope in Christ, might live for the praise of his glory. In him you also, when you have heard the word of truth, the gospel of salvation, and had believed in him, were marked with the seal of the promised Holy Spirit. This is the pledge of our inheritance toward redemption as God's own people, to the praise of his glory. The Holy Gospel for this Sunday is taken from the Gospel according to St. John, the first chapter, the first 16 verses. John begins his Gospel with this prologue, a hymn to the Word through whom all things were created. This Word became flesh and brought grace and truth to the world. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a father's only son, full of grace and truth. John testified to him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me ranks ahead of me, because he was before me.'" From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. The law indeed was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. It is God, the only Son, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known. The Gospel of Jesus Christ. The song is number 87 in Voices United. I am the light of the world. I am curious as to how many of you write out New Year's resolutions. I gave it up years ago. It seemed that no matter how much I promised myself I would change, improve, strive for perfection, ultimately, it just seemed like too much work. Actually, what usually happened was that while my spirit was willing, my flesh was very weak, and I would fail to live up to the standards I had set for myself. As a result, I would submit myself to self-inflicted verbal abuse and feel horrible that I could not even fulfill the smallest of goals. Ultimately, I beat myself up so well that it was easier to not make goals in the first place. Yet I wonder how many of our New Year's resolutions, either written or mentally notated, stem from the innermost belief that people will not deem us lovable or acceptable unless we somehow raise our standards and strive for that elusive state of perfection. Rather sad that our motivation to improve comes from a drivenness, almost despair for love and acceptance. I realize I generalize, but then the more I look at the situation, and remember, I've been around the block at least once, the more it seems that I am not far off the mark. So, okay, we stick to our resolutions, lose the large number of excess kilos, join a fitness club, buy a home exercise machine, turn away from the sugar, give up the cigarettes, the booze, stop swearing, try to be more understanding. The list goes on. And where do we end up? True, our physical health and hopefully our emotional health improves, but the desire for love and acceptance is conditional upon whether or not we stick with this regime. Spiritually, then, we are still a mess. What I admire about the passages chosen for today is the overwhelming message that God loves us unconditionally, and that when we but choose to believe this, wonderful, miraculous, radical things are in store. God's love is constant. We trust that the four seasons will carry on as usual, mostly, from year to year. Trust that the flowers will bloom, the seeds we plant will grow. Even when the weather and the crops do not materialize, still we trust in the cycle of life. Trust then the constant, gracious love of God. Even when it seems that God's love has disappeared, trust anyway. You will not be disappointed. We have been given a new name. Names are very important. For the Hebrew people, names were and still are chosen with great care. For in the name was summarized the interior character and being of that person. That is why Abram went from exalted ancestor to Abraham, ancestor of a multitude. Why Jacob went from one who undermines or grabs to Israel, a prince who prevails with God. With a change in name came a change in status, an enrichment of an existing relationship. Before, our name was creation. Now we are called children. Before, we were given breath. Now we are given new life through God's embrace. Ponder the wonder of this news, the beauty of the imagery the writers of these scriptures use to show the richness of God's love and mercy. Embrace in your heart all those who are dear to you, through whom Christ shines. Reflect on the blessings God has given you through these people. The writer of the letter to the Ephesians praises God's grace in Jesus Christ, giving thanks for the faithfulness of Christ's followers, holding them up in prayer in order that they may discern the will and grace of God for themselves. Perhaps this is a healthier option than writing out resolutions and goals which are impossible to keep. If we would focus our energy into our prayers for others, I believe our lives would be a lot healthier. If I had to rely on my own will to get through life, I probably would have given up ages ago. But entering into a difficult situation, knowing that others are praying for me, gives me amazing calm and courage. Rather than beating ourselves up with words, why not empower each other in prayer? For when we are praying for another and for God's purpose and direction for that individual, we slowly begin to dissolve the conditions we have set up around our hearts that the other person must meet before we will love them. We also realize that we do not need our walls either for ourselves, and to accept grace for ourselves. May you know what is the hope to which you have been called, what the riches of God's glorious inheritance in the saints are, however God will make them known in your life. Amen. The hymn of the month is in More Voices, number 172, God says. Prayers of intercession. Joining our voices with the heavenly host and Christians throughout time and space, let us pray for the church, the world, and all in need. You make yourself known in the gift of language in diverse forms. Draw our attention to those who communicate through sign, braille, and technology. Make your church a place where all methods of communication are celebrated. Merciful God, receive our prayer. Creating God, the sun greets us anew each morning. Thank you for waking us up today to witness and to share your abundance. Awaken us always in your wisdom and deepen our care for your natural world. Merciful God, receive our prayer. Emmanuel, in your name we are assured that you are with us. Train nations and prophets to honor and respect one another, especially those whose names and identities have been mistreated, neglected, or oppressed. Merciful God, receive our prayer. You adopt us as your beloved ones. Accompany parents and children navigating the adoption process, especially those in the foster system. Sustain those struggling with infertility or pregnancy loss. Tenderly embrace all in need. Douglas Pearson, Tracy Scogland, Mike Fraze, Duane, Brooke Alexia, Catherine Janke Schmidt. Merciful God, receive our prayer. You journey with us through change. Guide those assuming new roles in this parish or making transitions in their families, workplaces, or communities. As the seasons and the calendar change, equip us for unexpected challenges. Merciful God, receive our prayer. We give you thanks for all who modeled lives of loving service. Lead us in your grace until with all your saints we enter the fullness of your glory. Merciful God, receive our prayer. Rejoicing in your word made flesh among us, we commend these prayers to you, confident of your grace and love made known to us in Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The sending song is in Voices United, number 7. Hope is a star. Receive the benediction. The God of hope fill us with all joy and peace in believing, so that we may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit, through Christ, the Word made flesh. Amen. Go with Christ into a weary world. Share the good news. Thanks be to God. Amen.